Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Gizmo Joe. Today we're going to be taking a look at this desktop external hard drive, and what we're going to try to do is shuck it. For those of you who are not familiar with the term, it basically means taking the hard drive that's inside of this enclosure out. Now obviously this is a Seagate, and I believe the model number is around here somewhere. I think it's an SRD00F2. Now this is a 2 terabyte hard drive on the inside, and it's just an expansion drive, so it's just their sort of standard one. Again, it's a 3.5 inch drive, so it's sort of like a external desktop model that needs a power supply. But it's USB 3, and basically what's happened is this guy just stopped working. And now I've had Seagate drives before. I had a 5 terabyte expansion drive that also just stopped working, and what I did was I took the internal hard drive outside of the case, and sure enough, it was fine. I popped it in my NAS, and everything was fine. So, I'm hoping that this is the same sort of situation. If I just take this apart, I can pull the hard drive out and hopefully salvage it. Now, I can pop that into a desktop computer, just hook it up via SATA and just mount it on the inside of a desktop PC, or, I can buy another enclosure and basically use it as just an external hard drive. But it's 2 terabytes, so it's a decent amount of space, so I want to see if I can try to save it. Now, looking at this particular drive, there's no real screws or anything like that that I can see. Now, the other one that I took apart didn't look like this, but it was fairly basic. I think, you just got to find these like little sort of wedges here, or these like little seams, and get some spudgers or whatever you want to call them in there, and just sort of work your way around, and hopefully this whole top bit will just pop right off. I'm hoping that's what happens. Now I've got a couple things with me. I've got, like I said, spudgers. These are like little tools that you often get with, I don't know if you do any sort of mobile phone repair or whatever. Basically, some of mine are chewed up. But the idea is that they're these little plastic things that you can kind of hook into and pry away. The other thing that I like using are like sort of credit cards. Now I've got just some SIM card stuff here, but basically these guys are really thin. They're plastic, so they're not gonna, if you break it or whatever, it's not that big of a deal. It's not like you need to order a new debit card or something. But basically, once I make a bit of separation between the casing, I like to stick one of these guys in there, because essentially it keeps that spacing apart, and it saves my fingers from having to pull it apart and do it and everything. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to find these little seams. So like I said, on this particular unit, you can see this seam that goes all the way around. So I'm thinking this whole top bit just pops off. But now the challenge is they don't make it very easy, right? So, you've got to basically try to get in there, and there'll probably be these like clips on the inside that if you're able to work your way around, and see, I can't even get this card in here. Tough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get something in there. I'm going to see if I can work it around. Okay, so unfortunately this looks like it's going to be a bit harder than I originally thought. So basically, using one of these little spudgers, I just kind of like went in between the seams here, and I was able to pull it apart just enough to kind of wedge this card in here. But I'm not having much luck being able to pry this open. Now what it looks like when I stick this guy in here and I kind of pull away from the main housing is it looks like there's a series of clips in there that just make it real tough. So what I'm going to try to do is, again, this thing does not work, so I'm going to try to just dismantle this as best as I can. If I break the plastic, so be it. It seems to me that it's faulty anyway, and if it doesn't work, I just chuck everything in the recycle. The electronics recycling. So anyway, let me pause it, and I'll keep trying to get this guy off, and I'll check back in with you if I made any progress. I think we've kind of made a little bit of progress. I was able to get one of these spudgers in the side, and now I'm really getting some movement on this case. And I think if I just sort of work around this casing, it should sort of pry off. Obviously, you got to watch it. Your fingers can get pretty chewed up, but you can hear that click, right? So there are a bunch of like little clips on the inside that keeps this top bit on, and that's what's making it really, really difficult for us. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to wedge this guy in here, get some separation, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another spudger, hopefully to just sort of work my way around slowly across the entire housing in order to pull that hard drive out. So I'll check back in with you guys once I made a little bit more progress. So as you can see, I've run a spudger along the side and I was able to snap some of these clips. I know it's really, really hard to see, but basically I just took this guy, ran it all the way down. I heard some audible snapping. Like I said, if you want to try to save the enclosure, it's probably not the best way to go about it. I'm just basically using brute force to crack this guy open. But again, I don't think this enclosure is really going to be salvageable. I don't think it works. I'm not sure if the hard drive is still working, but that's what I'm hoping. And it's just at this stage, just kind of like real fiddly. So you're just working your way around, and you can hear that crack when I break one of the clips. And we're starting to make some decent progress now. Let me see if I can get this guy so I was obviously able to just yank this off. What you can see here is that there's a whole bunch of like clips that hold this guy in place. So the trick is to just wedge something in there, whether that's a credit card or something, and just slowly work your way around, and eventually you'll just be able to lift it straight off. Just be careful. It can chew up your fingertips a little bit, but all in all, it's a pretty easy, painless sort of procedure. So now what we want to do is we need to sort of release this out of the case. And I think what we're going to need to do is actually remove this whole bottom portion and see if I can get the hard drive to drop out of here. And it looks like it is. Now, what's good about Seagates, and there's always the debate, Western Digital or Seagate, are they better? Which one's better? I've had way more luck shucking or dismantling Seagate drives because Western Digital's, I think they solder the hard drive or something to the little controller board here, whereas Seagate doesn't. You can literally just unplug it. And I think here I'm going to need to unscrew these. Trying to see here. Yeah, so it looks like, what do we got here? Just a standard, looks like a Phillips head. So I'll need to grab a screwdriver to essentially release the hard drive from this bracket. And then we can hopefully just pull the hard drive right out. Now I've also got a little gizmo that I featured in a previous video that allows me to essentially hook up a 3.5-inch drive to a computer just via USB. So that's what I'll be doing next. But anyway, let me grab a screwdriver and try to release this guy out of this little enclosure thing. Okay, so as you can see, I've removed all 4 screws from this bracket. Now, I think this hard drive should just slide right out. And there it goes. So as you can see just in there, that's your SATA connection. So, just the little controller board or whatever the heck you call it with the USB interface, and the power is just on that board. So it's not actually soldered to the hard drive itself. The hard drive is just a regular SATA hard drive that you could, stick in your desktop PC or another enclosure or whatever. But the last and final step is to check to see if this hard drive is still alive. I believe I had a bunch of movies and TV shows and stuff on it, so I'm going to check and see if I can recover any of that data. Like I said, I'll be using the little gizmo that allows me to connect it to my laptop, so I'll just show you that in... Okay, so I've got my little SATA USB reader. Basically, this plugs into a power outlet. We've got our USB 3 lead, and basically this is just a SATA connection. So what we're going to do is we are going to connect this hard drive to this little connector, if I can feel my way to do it. Okay, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but the drive is spinning up, and doesn't look like we're going to have much luck here. It sounds a bit wonky. like there might be something wrong with the disk. I'm going to try to plug it into my laptop here and see if it shows up, but I'm not all that confident that we're going to be successful. But we'll see. Make sure that's connected. I'm looking on my laptop right now, and it doesn't look like anything is coming up. And unfortunately, I think we might have a dead drive. Like I said, it's a bit unfortunate. I had a 5 terabyte drive, same sort of thing happened. The external enclosure just malfunctioned, but the drive itself was fine, and I was able to use it for years. Actually, in fact, I'm still using it. It's in, like I said, my NAS. It just serves music and photos and stuff. But this guy seems to be DOA. So in this case, it looks like it was a case of the drive itself failing, which is a bit of a shame, because again, being able to remove one of these guys out of an external enclosure is great, because a lot of people unfortunately think, oh, once the drive dies, it's dead, and they chuck it out and they lose all that data. But in reality, you can just crack open the enclosure and yank the drive out. In previous attempts, I've been very successful, but this one unfortunately is dead. So anyway, look, at least you saw how to open up one of these little Seagate enclosures, so maybe you learned something. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and this is Gizmo Joe signing off.